This is Nicole Zembrodt with All Bengals, and today I am joined by Bengals legend Jim Breech. Jim, last time we talked, we shortly right after Evan McPherson was drafted, and you praised his physical abilities, talked a lot about his leg just from what he showed at Florida. But you also talked about the mental game and how he hadn't experienced that on the NFL stage yet, which would be important to his success. Now, fast forward to a year under his belt, and he bounced back from some early season misses to go on that postseason run. Just how special can McPherson be after this season?
Hi, Nicole. Good to see you again.
Good to see.
He touched all the bases. I mean, he had a phenomenal run there. You know, those early ones he bounced back from and got on a roll. The latter part of the season into the playoffs was unbelievable. He can be Justin Tucker. I don't know if he can be. I mean, if anybody, I think Justin Tucker's the best kicker that's ever kicked in the NFL. He's right there with him, and if he's not, he's just a hair below him. And I think this says a whole lot.
It says a whole lot. And you touched on that back in April when we talked. You were not skeptical, but you were pretty confident in that Justin Tucker. So even a season into it, and you're still sticking with Justin Tucker, which future Hall of Famer.
Even more so now, actually.
Yeah.
After him playing the season, I feel that way even more strongly.
And he had an unwavering confidence backed by his coaches and players with him in the locker room. Just how important is that, having that team behind him after they took heat for drafting him in the 5th round, and also just those early season misses?
So as I can't remember who I read talked about, once they saw him kick in minicamp, they knew they had something special. So, you know, I was told one time by Reggie Williams that if you want to do something to get the respect of the players, then make critical kicks, do things that are at important times. And I think he certainly did that and much more. He was amazing. And confidence is a thing you have to have. I mean, you have to believe in yourself, and it helps if the coaches believe in you. There are places I think where when the coach goes hard on the kicker and makes his life kind of miserable, you find those guys struggle a little bit. And really, all you need is your coach to say, "Yeah, I believe in you." And I remember Forrest Gregg pulling me aside. I'd missed the kick, and he comes over just before I go out for another one. He goes, "Hey, I believe in you. I know you're going to make this." And I tell you, that felt good, you know, to have him say that. And I went out and made the kick, and you know, we went on to the Super Bowl that year. But Evan's got everything going on for him.
And we go back to the confidence. He called the game winner in Tennessee against Tennessee, and then he did the same going to the Super Bowl in Kansas City. So there definitely is a confidence growing, which is dangerous for a rookie kicker to have that.
I don't know if it's dangerous. I mean, he has it. I mean, he you know, you hope he doesn't get knocked down, and because somewhere along the way, because if you play for a long time, another one, Jan Stenerud, we tried out together in Green Bay. I had played 1 year at the Raiders. He'd played 13 years. I said, "It's got to get easier, right?" He goes, "Oh, no. It gets harder the longer you do it because there's more history there that you have to refer back to." So in Evan's case, he's just stepping up, doing great things. I think, why not make a guarantee to somebody on the sideline? If you miss it, nobody's going to say anything, you know?
Yeah.
But the fact that he had the confidence to do it, and because I never would have done it, I wouldn't have said anything to anybody because I was afraid it was going to jinx me into missing a kick. So I waited till it was all over with, and then we could celebrate. But everybody approaches it a little bit differently. And as I said, you know, earlier, we talked about confidence. He has great confidence, and he's shown it by doing it day in and day out of practice. He does it in games. So, you know, why not go out feeling like you're going to do it? He's got to kick, you know, he can kick a 65-yard field goal. So if he's kicking from 49 or 50, yeah, that's like it's a short one for him, or at least distance-wise, he doesn't have to worry about it.
What was it like for you to watch McPherson this season progress, going to the playoffs, Super Bowl, and break some of your records too.
Well, he's going to break all the records, whether and eventually get my scoring. Matter of fact, the scoring is about the only thing I have left. Shane and Doug Pelfrey and Mike Nugent, they all took me down a notch, but that's okay because as things go along, guys have gotten better, and that's and look where we are now with the best of the bunch. So no problem with it. I rooted for him I want the Bengals to win. And for them to go to the Super Bowl, how great was that? And he played such a huge part of it. So I was really happy that he got some notoriety out of it, but he seemed to handle it really well. He takes himself seriously, but he doesn't take himself too seriously. You got to take it seriously what you do, but don't take yourself too seriously. And he handles it really well.
Do you have a favorite kick of his from the season or playoffs?
There were a bunch of them, weren't there?
Yeah. I mean, 14.
I think probably because knowing from me, my background, one of my first kicks was really tough. Early game winner was tough because you really hadn't done it yet. So probably the game winner against Minnesota in that first game was huge. I think it was a huge confidence builder for him, huge confidence builder for the coaches and for the players and the city too, that you could believe we got a really good kicker here.
So McPherson did make headlines last week at the Combine when Coach Darren Simmons did say it was a sore subject of him staying on the field during halftime. What are your thoughts on that? And did you ever stay on the field during halftime?
It's funny, the eras are much different. I mean, we had an era where there was hardly anybody on the field when we were warming up, even before the game. I was at a point where I didn't even know if I could go out on the field prior to the game, prior to warm-ups. I eventually started to do that and hit some balls beforehand. You didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody because you're supposed to be mentally ready for the game. And today it's so much different. There's people everywhere on the field. There are TV cameras everywhere. So I don't have anything to compare it to. So the idea of going out and watching one of our Super Bowl halftime shows never occurred to me. However, this day and age, I mean, they don't have anything to do. You go in and you go to the bathroom and then you just sit around. So, the only thing I could say is maybe instead of sit on the bench, they could have gone up against the wall where they're probably not going to be on TV and then watch it there. But I would have considered going out and watching the game or watching the halftime show, especially if somebody that's really cool and they really like. Darren's the coach, right? And yeah, he's got to keep some control there. And they went out and did it anyway. They didn't know. I don't know if they went in first and then came out, which is what I'm guessing they probably did. I don't have a whole lot of problem with it. I get why Darren, but I also get why Darren's upset. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do it, just don't get where you can be on TV. So nobody really knows.
No, for next time.
Hopefully there's a next time.
Hopefully, yes. We definitely want them to be back. We'll switch gears to free agency. And what do the Bengals need to do this offseason to get back to the Super Bowl and actually bring it home this time?
Well, I think that's all everybody's talking about is what they need to do. And offensive line certainly was an issue. Although everybody has trouble with Aaron Donald. It's not like the Bengals were the lone wolf. He's so unbelievably disruptive. But really, Aaron Donald's playing because of Geno Atkins. Smaller defensive lineman with great strength, great leverage, and great quickness. And he's even said that Geno Atkins got him drafted in the first round. So Geno was kind of the prototype of what was to come. So, yeah, the offensive line gave a lot of sacks. They're not all theirs. Joe may have held the ball a couple times, or more than a few times, longer than he needed to, just probably looking for a big play. But I think they do obviously need, if they had a top 10 offensive line, I think they'd be, man, that offense would be amazing. So I think that's probably where they're going to gear things. And you hope that like a Jackson Carman coming into his second year, having played a position, can make a big jump. And Deontay Smith, any of the young guys, Trey Hill, that they can make a positive move upward. Maybe re-sign Riley Reef. He did a nice job in there. So obviously they're going to be looking at the offensive line, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The good thing from a free agent standpoint is people want to come to Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is like the Pied Piper. He starts, he starts calling and people start coming.
That's
maybe, what's that?
How big is the Joe Burrow effect on free agency?
Unbelievable. Jeff Ruby's going to have to open up the precinct, or Jeff Ruby's, and have a whole room for all the free agents they're going to bring in there that want to play, and which is great. I mean, it's not very often that you're in that position. It's like guys wanting to go play with Tom Brady or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, whatever the case might be. So it's going to be great. They're going to have the opportunity to get guys that are going to be really good. And then they have to decide how much money they want to spend on those free agents. And obviously in the last couple of years, they've spent a lot of money. They've been the third most in terms of dollars spent in free agency. So if they did something similar to that, I think they could come up with some really, really good players. And DB too. I think cornerback is probably another area where they're going to spend some time. Maybe, Eli Apple took some heat, but I think he actually had a pretty good season overall.
And how should the Bengals approach free agency? You talked that they've spent money and they've been very defensively heavy these past couple off seasons. Should they spend more money in the offensive line and then approach the draft defensively, vice versa? Is there an approach, or just whoever fits?
Well, I think the offensive line probably makes some sense to get at least one free agent. Maybe it's Riley Reef again. Quentin Spain actually played pretty well at left guard. The right side, after Reef went out, was the troubled area. And then center, although Hopkins played better later in the year, so it started to show that he started to gain confidence in his knee and the strength. So he was playing better at the end of the year. I would think that they would be looking at an offensive line, putting some money there, which they haven't done in the past. I mean, they didn't pay Riley Reef a ton of money, or Quentin Spain when they came in. So I would expect the money to be geared, some of it geared that way, but you can't ignore the whole team, right? I mean, they got there because of their defense in the the defense played phenomenally well and really set things up with the interceptions so they could keep going. So, they can't forget the defense, which I know they won't, but, they're a pretty young team, which is exciting. They've got a lot of young players. Now it's just fitting the pieces again like they have the last couple of years.
And they just placed the franchise tag on Jesse Bates. So Bates will be back next season. Unfortunately, I mean, players don't like to play under the tag, but it gives time for them to work on a extension until July 15th. How confident are you that a deal could get done between both sides?
Well, I'm very confident if both sides wanted to get it done and they could find a meeting point that they would get it done. They'd get it done tomorrow, but the problem is the Bengals are going to pay probably have in mind a certain number that they're going to pay. And Jesse's agents have in mind a certain number that's probably close to the top end. He's an excellent player. Didn't have a great regular season, had a phenomenal playoff. I mean, he was making plays all over the field. So, if one's up here and one's down here and they don't want to move off of it, then the deal's not going to get done. So everybody's saying you got to get Jesse Bates signed. I agree. But you also have to consider that, you have other guys that get signed. You have free agents. I mean, I know the Bengals have a lot of money, but I have to take into account the whole team. So I'm hopeful that they can find a meeting point and get an extension done. And because he's a rock solid player and showed what he's capable of in the playoffs, which was similar to how he played the previous year. So if you give him some confidence from his mindset that, I don't have to worry about it from next 4 or 5 years, I'm done. financially, then he goes out and just frees himself up and plays. So I would love to see it get it done. I'm just not sure when you see these not work out, the player wants more. And as a player, I've always wondered, yeah, I kind of get the thing, you want the respect, but ultimately give me a number that is fair, but it also allows the team to continue to be great. You get some quarterbacks getting these huge numbers and it impacts what they can do with the rest of the team. So, and that's true. You sign guys and all of a sudden you realize, well, that guy going into his third year, his number is untenable. So we got to do something else. And so teams are going, 1 or 2 years at a time. This is our chance. Let's do it now. The Bengals are in a good situation right now to be able to really make a run. So, I think there's some give and take there. But my guess is they're apart. The Bengals are down here thinking, say, he's 12 million, and they're up here saying 16 or 17. And I don't know. I don't know the numbers. I have no idea. But that's probably the problem.
And you were one of the nominees for the inaugural Ring of Honor class. And according to the team, you will remain on that Ring of Honor ballot in future years. What was the ceremony like that Thursday night game, watching the inaugural class get inducted and just being with all those other guys that have made up Bengals history?
It was a really proud evening. I was so happy to see the Bengals decide to go that direction. It was exciting because you didn't think that it was ever going to happen, and the way they handled it, I thought, I wonder how they're going to do this. And you're doing it at halftime, and halftimes are only 12 minutes long. But the way they did it, they had done everything in advance. They had the videos, so the guys had a chance to really sit down and say what they want to say, and then they did it on the field. I really liked how they did it. The other part of it is I loved that they did do it, that they've decided to make that move. And I think I've talked to enough people. I talk to people all the time. People always like, well, we should have something like that. You honor the guys from the past, because there is something, the past does lead to the future. And, the guys that are playing now want to know that, hey, we had some really good players here. This team has, done some great things in the past. And look at that. Oh, Anthony Munoz, he's like the greatest offensive lineman ever. But it's not in your front and center. But now you've seen the names up there, the Kenny Andersons, Ken Riley's. A couple of years ago, the 50th anniversary, the defensive back coach, I can't remember who it was then, might have been Kevin Coyle, brought Ken Riley, Louis Breeden, and Lamar Parrish into a meeting. And he says, guys, let's see, between these three is 145 interceptions. Think about that. 145 interceptions, just under 50 if you divide it between each. And it was unbelievable. You start thinking about it, it's like, wow, that's crazy. That's a crazy number. And Ken Riley having 65, fifth all time, eventually will be in the Hall of Fame, should be in the Hall of Fame. So I think it's only a positive that stuff happens here. Kenny Anderson's going to get in the Hall of Fame. But now they're being recognized by their own team. Whereas, hey, these guys, they don't even recognize by their own team. How can they be in the Hall of Fame when their own team doesn't even think that they're good enough to be in their team's Hall of Fame? So from that standpoint, I'm really excited about it. I think the Bengals are excited about it. I know that they were. I talked to Elizabeth Blackburn and a few of the people down there, and real excited about it. So it's exciting all around with what's going on with Joe Burrow, what's going on with the team, some of the things that they're doing. I think the young fans can really get behind this and allow some of our older fans who remember the old guys to kind of say, I remember that. I remember what I was doing in the Super Bowl and the Freezer Bowl. But now they've got the young fans that can see this was our legacy. But look what we've got on the field now. And those are the guys that are going to be up there someday, the Burrows and the Chases and so forth.
there definitely is a buzz around Cincinnati. Jim, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Nicole, for having me. It's always nice to see you and talk to you.
Always nice to see you too and catch up as well.